Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Robert Ratway. Robert Ratway is a Senior Director of Higher Education Solutions at Modo Labs. Rob has worked with PeopleSoft technology for more than 2 decades, most of that time focused on campus solutions. He began his PeopleSoft career as a technical PeopleSoft consultant at Accenture before founding his own consulting services company, RojoServe, which he owned and operated for 20 years. The blend of functional and technical knowledge Rob developed over the years has enabled him to deliver solutions that integrate seamlessly within PeopleSoft's delivered framework. Rob and his team recently joined Modo Labs, developer of a low-code app-building platform, upon Modo's acquisition of RojoServe, where he focuses on developing integrations that enable personalized digital experiences for campuses and workplaces. Well, good afternoon, Rob. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Exciting. Another podcast, another day, and we get to talk to you a little bit about your background, your career, and what you're doing now at Modo Lab. So let's just jump right into these questions. Rob, you've got quite the career in material science, in technology, as an entrepreneur, and now you're the Senior Director of Higher Education Solutions at Modo Labs. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
Yeah, absolutely. So career growth, it can mean different things to different people. To some people, career growth means maybe like picking a destination and trying to do the things to get them to that destination. But for me, the journey is more important than the destination. So if your journey is meaningful and fulfilling, then career growth not only happens naturally, but you actually end up where you're supposed to be. And then as far as inspiration goes, I've always my whole life loved to create things. So what inspires me is seeing my creations come to life and seeing people benefit from those creations. Additionally, I would have to say another thing that inspires me is, and actually it's funny because my mom tells a story about when I was a child and how I loved to give all of my possessions away to my friends. And I did that because I wanted them to be happy. And this is actually translated over to my professional career. And I still have that desire to create and give these things to my customers and see that it's making a difference and making their life better.
I love that. Whenever your mother has to tell the story, right, it really tells us who we are. But I love that the fact that you're here on earth to serve and help others. So I love that story. I really, really do. So Rob, switching gears here, during the pandemic, what was the single biggest business decision you had to make during that first year? And how different is your business strategy today?
Yeah, it's a great question. The single biggest business decision that I made during the pandemic was actually deciding whether or not I wanted to build a software product-based company. So for most of my career, I had operated a small consulting services company. And as a consultant, you typically just worked a 40-hour week with an occasional extended work week to support, a customer go live or some post go live support. But, you had a pretty set schedule for the most part. When you own a product company, there are no set hours. You put in your 40 hours and then you put in as many additional hours it takes to actually make the product successful and support your customers. So that was really the question I posed to myself was, am I willing to give up a pretty comfortable existence to take on the challenge of building something that might not take flight at all and would require me to work 80 plus hours a week? And, when you actually listen to the answer to question 1, you already know what the answer is for question 2, right? What I just basically stated was that because I love to create and because I love to bring things into people's life to make their life better, of course, I was going to accept the challenge to, create this software product-based company.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate the, your insight specifically on what you did to traverse these challenges. So thanks again, Rob. And Rob, this is obviously a big one for us. We're a technology platform here in publication, but you're obviously leveraging some new and emerging technologies within your tech stack, right? Is there anything you might be able to share with us today?
Yeah, definitely. So when I started RojoServe, my value was really in my industry knowledge and my experience with integrating different systems. And that was really the foundation that was necessary to be able to create what we've created. So I can't really take the credit for the emerging technologies portion or aspect of our company. Really, that credit has to go to Modo Labs for their innovative platform that allowed us to integrate all these different distributed systems into their unified experience, into that Modo unified experience. And in addition to that, really, I have to give another shout out to the Rojo Serves co-founder, Eric Bollinger, who he's really responsible for creating the architecture that's designed to reduce operational and cost overhead. And that's especially important for a small shop like ours. And then we are also taking advantage of AWS serverless features, including API gateway, Lambda functions, and that allows us to provide scalability and scale to zero functionality within the infrastructure. So as I mentioned, I had a lot of substance that I brought to the company, but I really relied heavily on Modo's innovations and my co-founders' expertise in those leading edge technologies.
Thank you. And I love the collaboration and how, again, a lot of technologists these days, sometimes stick to what they know, or they might, have a little bit of an ego there. But I like the fact that you're collaborating and bringing multiple minds together to make a better solution. So I appreciate the share. And Rob, last question here. Can you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career in tech or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to answer these two kind of separately. We'll start with the career growth part of the question. So I think the key to growth is pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Most people I've worked with in the past, they take the safe approach when they're confronted with a potential challenge. They'll lean heavily on past experiences, which is great, but they'll kind of stick with what they know. When I'm asked to do something, I don't go to my safe place. I think, what would be the ideal experience, or what should that ideal solution look like? And then I do whatever it takes to make the ideal solution become reality. And I kind of like to do an analogy to skiing and snowboarding. So I ski and snowboard, and in skiing, you can fall two ways, right? You can be aggressive and try new things and fall. And that's great because you're growing, you're challenging yourself and you're growing. So that kind of falling is fantastic. It's when you're scared and you lean back on your skis, and when you fall, you're not gaining anything, right? So I'm all about leaning forward, pushing things, falling because it's good, not because I'm scared. So that's the first piece of that. Now, the entrepreneurship aspect, making the transition, I'm going to take it from an employee to an entrepreneur transition standpoint. So making that transition from an employee, or just really getting into becoming an entrepreneur, can be really scary. I think the most important thing is making this transition is believing in yourself. If you have confidence in yourself, your abilities, that's definitely more than half the battle. So my recommendation to anybody who's considering jumping into, starting up their own business or, their own endeavor, just be confident in your abilities.
Thank you. And again, as we reflect back through this short conversation that we have here on the podcast, I love that how you bring it home with some of those gems that you've learned over your time, your career, from our birth, a lot from our parents, but sharing that with our audience is very meaningful and very impactful. So I appreciate the share. And Rob, one last thing. It was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. This was really a great opportunity to share some of my experiences and insights. So I really appreciate having me on the show.
Bye for now.